I think about my experiences, the fundamental problem, and it's still a problem, is there was really no alignment on a go-to-market strategy. And what strategy really means, it means different things to different people. Everybody thinks they're sort of operating very strategically, even selling very strategically, marketing very strategically. But what does it mean to align on the same fundamentals and build your company on that?
Welcome to the CTRL ALT GAB podcast, where we sit down with tech founders to break down how they scale, pivot, and grow. I'm your host, Gabrielle Walthers. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the CTRL ALT GAB podcast. I am joined today by the wonderful Monica. She is the founder and CEO of SureRev.AI. We are very grateful to have her today to share a little bit about her founding journey, her experience growing, starting, and scaling SureRev, and what she's learned along the way. So thank you, Monica, for joining us. We are so lucky to have you. To kick things off, I am very curious to hear really just kind of your founder story and what led you to start SureRev and what the inspiration was behind starting this specific type of company in this specific space and what inspired your journey and what led you to start this company and be an entrepreneur.
Great, thank you. Yes, started SureRev with the mission of aligning go-to-market teams on a go-to-market strategy. I've been bitten by the entrepreneurial bug for quite some time now. I have an MBA from Babson, and they train you pretty well with the entrepreneurial mindset. Went into product management, which again requires you to do a lot of problem solving for companies, again with a very entrepreneurial mindset, because you have to get stuff done with a bunch of resources or sometimes lack thereof. But as my career grew in product management, it became very clear that go-to-market was a problem for a lot of tech companies, especially the B2B tech companies, which that's where I've mostly worked. And it was really not a problem with any single function. Always work with very talented salespeople, talented marketing people, always had a very good product team. But the fundamental, and I step back and I think about my experiences, the fundamental problem, and it's still a problem, I think, is there was really no alignment on a go-to-market strategy. And what strategy really means, it means different things to different people. Everybody thinks they're operating very strategically, even selling very strategically, marketing very strategically. But what does it mean to align on the same fundamentals and build your company on that? So that was the inspiration after a couple of stints as a product leader and a go-to-market leader. And then Gen AI happened, and I started experimenting with things with AI and Gen AI. And I just saw how it was suddenly feasible to sort of connect the dots between different functions pretty easily with Gen AI as the foundation.
Gotcha. Very cool. So you were able to see an issue just based through your previous work experience and the different companies that you worked for and said, there's opportunity here. Find through, honestly, just through being able to interview people for this podcast, I've seen two big themes with folks starting their founder journey. Theme one is they've always had that entrepreneurial bug, as you said. They've always had a goal of starting their own company, and that is the motivator behind picking a good offering or a good product or a good solution and then going and starting that. On the flip side, founders aligning similarly to you, where they put a lot of time and years into a certain industry, they learned a ton, they found huge gaps, and they said, I don't think anyone's fixing this. And I think there's massive opportunity here. It's always very interesting to me to see what brings people to that space, because it's not an easy thing to do. It's very interesting for me to see what brings people to that same table. So how long have you been to market? How long have you folks been onboarding new clients and fully operational?
So we've been doing that for quite some time now, starting with our design partners. We've gone through multiple iterations of the product, and that's what I believe in. It's the big bang approach of launching products, which probably most large companies do that, perhaps during the later stages. It probably doesn't work for a lot of the early stage companies, and it's best to, you have an idea in your mind. In my case, I think I'm category defining product, so there is nothing else like this, really, honestly. The best route has been to get some design partners on board, test it out, and then go from there and just keep expanding that customer base. So that's been the journey. And I started the company about a year or so ago. So 6 months into my journey into this, I started experimenting with customers and early customers.
Awesome. I wanted to just touch base on that iteration piece. You mentioned that you did some of that testing and iterating and pivoting that way. How did you know when to do that? What was kind of the signal for you? And with your current iteration now, what kind of signals to you that you're on the right track and this is an effective iteration?
The nice thing in my scenario has been I've been part of launching products a long time. I've done this before for larger companies. So when I had sort of the MVP and it was a lot at that stage, the MVP was not even Gen AI enabled, but I was able to get feedback on the workflow that I wanted to implement and the value that I wanted to bring to the table. So I think every entrepreneur should validate the value proposition that they want to bring and whether what they're thinking, especially if you're like a category defining product, are you really providing the value that customers are going to be excited about? Is the problem resonating with the customers? You don't even need a product for that. You could potentially do that with some AI. There are such nice tools out there that you can actually build your prototype for it. But in back about a year, 18 months ago, I could have done it with a markup. I think now more than ever, you should be able to build a prototype in like a day and test it out and validate the problem with the customers. Anyway, you think you're ready with an MVP, always good to test it out with close friends, family, associates from your past life. Entrepreneurs especially shouldn't feel embarrassed about the stage or the status of their prototype. They're there to get feedback. So as early as possible. I certainly had the luxury of doing several of these in my past life, so I knew when's the right time and so on. But then I've gone very rapidly, iterated very rapidly, and taken feedback with a set of customers or associates I built around this or subject matter experts.
Is there another iteration on the horizon? And when kind of was the last one? Has there been a theme or a pattern of time between what you've tested and when you've implemented
Yeah.
some changes based on feedback? And what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so kept expanding the people that I wanted to test with, right? So right now I'm testing it with folks that are out in the market. Like I don't know these people, but they are my prospects. So I'm actually going out and basically getting their feedback or showing them the demo. And yes, it'll always keep iterating, and then we'll go for a much broader audience and blast out campaigns and emails. If you think about it, like going in a spiral, right? Just constantly as you go through the spiral, you're expanding the radius of your customers and going from your friends, family, associates from your past life to a broader audience, but always focused on who my prospects are going to be.
Definitely. The prospects piece brings me actually to my next question very nicely. I want you to walk us through what client acquisition looked like for you in the early days and what acquiring those first few customers looked like, and then contrast to now what customer acquisition looks like for you at this current stage.
So early stages, again, going to people, prospects that I know and bringing them on as design partners. Earlier on, Derek, who's my current business partner and partnership lead, he helped me out very early on in the stage, and he brought in some of the early design partners. And then I worked with a few other startups and tested out the product with them. Going forward, the customer acquisition is going to be, I'm going down and experimenting with a few partner routes, like expanding the partner ecosystems. And I have some good ideas about which of these partners would actually make sense. So I can leverage an existing ecosystem, and instead of marketing one-on-one, you could market it to the ecosystem, and the ecosystem can then access a nice channel for you. I am interested in pursuing some partners that I can announce right now, but that is a route that I am absolutely working on.
For sure. And if moving more to that partnership model is going to be a pivot for you, what are you deviating away from? What is it that you're mostly having for client relationships now, if it isn't predominantly partner based?
I don't know if we are consciously moving away from anything right now. I've always been pretty focused about the ICP that I want to go after. So these partners are definitely, they open up a channel of very similar ICPs or exactly the same ICPs that I want to go after. So not necessarily deviating away from things at this moment, but certainly building with the eye to expanding the partners that I intend working with.
Gotcha. And with the current partnerships that you have, when kind of we toss around the word expansion, how those partnerships look now? Is there going to be expansion within existing partnerships? for maybe a more robust offering, or as your product changes, will there be amendments to those partnerships to grow along with your offering? Is that something that you've thought about that's, been a factor to consider, or is that a little bit down the road?
Probably a little bit down the road. Because I'm building an agentic AI solution, it's more like the business models in the agentic AI solutions have changed, and I'm thinking of this more of a as a utility product. You do have a subscription, and it's a very low subscription, and the pricing model and everything will change. It's what's on my website, but it's more like a utility product. I have a channel open. We provide value to that channel, and we keep adding features, but you are really using it based on whatever you need as a consumption model. That's how I'm thinking about it as well. But certainly because I'm building a go-to-market operating system, and I intend it to be a full-blown operating system where sales and marketing can align and do their work. We will constantly keep adding features, and
Okay.
marketing teams might use one feature, some others may use another feature. So it's going to be based on utility pricing.
I think that setup allows you to be very scalable. It's based on that consumption model, based on the needs of your partnerships. It's easy for you to be able to add new features to the offering based on the needs of your client. That scalability, has that been something that you scoped into your product development from the get-go? Is that always the format you were looking to be in, where you were like, we want this to be able to be easily changeable depending on the types of folks that are going to be using it the most?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always, by training or by experience, I've always valued a systems-based approach and a scalable methodology. So yeah, I'm building a system that can be modularized and added on to. By doing that, you're automatically scaling up to multiple capabilities, but also architecting in a way that building features doesn't necessarily mean you're building it in a way that adds complexity tenfold.
Hmm.
So it's a very layered approach. Like my whole methodology is you build a strategy around your go-to-market, and then everything else follows from that. You leverage your strategy for sales enablement, you leverage your strategy for sales messaging, you leverage your strategy for messaging to any scale, and then you're able to collect all of that feedback into the product and then iterate again.
Definitely. So using the strategic piece as like the engine that fuels
Yeah.
all of the other activities. So there's that embedded alignment. How have you been able to maintain consistency and quality for the product as you've grown it and scaled it?
Yeah, you can think of consistency at different levels, at the AI layer, at the UX layer. Certainly, having a good experience and having a consistent experience matters. I've put a lot of focus on that. The quality piece, I have to say, it is a challenge for AI companies as models are changing and the models themselves are not perfect. I can tell you that we are using multiple models behind the scenes. We're using multiple tools behind the scenes. They have to be tested, they have to be vetted out. And as they progress, a new version of the model comes out. You have to benchmark the new version against the old version and how does that compare and contrast. Actually, sometimes the new version will break the old version of the way the product was designed. You kind of have to build a testing framework around for this, and you do have to do a lot of scenario testing, and that's what we've done with a small team. It can be done, I think, and that's what we've sort of stayed very agile and nimble ourselves, but spend a lot of hours sort of crafting out how we think about the testing framework and compare the different models and the outputs we get. It's not straightforward. If product development has accelerated because of AI, QA and testing has certainly become the bottleneck now.
I think a problem that a lot of tech founders will be experiencing if they haven't already with their any AI based models that they're utilizing. And so on the business operation side of things, has that caused any hurdles or challenges on the other side of the coin? Like, does it produce an issue for your developers? Do you need to quickly utilize like contractors to come in and support with that type of work? If not, awesome. But if there has been something that has trickled down to say, how have you managed to deal with those pieces?
Besides having a good technical team, my background also is that of a software engineer, and I've architected business systems before. My experience with AI goes back to 2013 when I we first set up the AI and data science team at Nokia. I have some hands-on experience and I do a lot of the AI work myself. But that said, from an operations standpoint, sometimes very recently we thought we'd get a feature done in like 2 weeks, but we weren't getting the results we had hoped for. And it required us to re-architect how we were using the underlying APIs because it's just how the API was designed, but not quite advertised or documented that way. You learn it by doing, for sure. Sometimes things take longer to get done, and you may have promised a feature or plan for a release or envision some bringing some prospects on, but you can't because of the delays in what you have to do to get a good quality product out the door. But yeah, and these technical challenges will be there. Even if you have AI coding your product, there are times when you take a left turn and you have to steer yourself and the entire team in the right direction, and it takes longer to do. And features you promised your customers may take a while. You keep an eye on the ball, keep an eye on the value you want to provide, and you eventually get there.
Definitely. So we've chatted a lot about the challenges and successes with your offering and developing that, iterating and testing and what that process has looked like to date. How has growing the actual business looked for you along with that product offering? Has your team expanded? Have you been able to keep a modest team leveraging AI to scale the business ops side of things? What has that looked like as you're onboarding more clients, having new partnerships? What does the business side of the scaling journey look like for you?
Yeah, so when you're small, you really want to bring on the right people and you want to make sure you make the right hires and at the right time. The most recent hire that I've had is my partner, who's focused on biz dev and partnerships. And that's with an eye to sort of growing the business in that direction. I've been working on the sales and the product side myself and have a technical team to address the product side. I've also got some really good advisors who advise me on the marketing side as well, but that sort of stayed a little bit leaner. With each stage of the company, you're looking at, okay, where is it that we really want to invest in? And right now, the sales and the partnership side is the most urgent, and that's where I've asked Derek to join the team.
So as the biz dev individual, is he taking on and making a plan of attack for those sales and marketing pieces so that it's something that you can effectively move off of your plate
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
focus on the things you'd like to focus on more? And how long has he been with the team? How long ago did you onboard him?
We've been working together for the last year, but in the last couple of months, he's joined, officially, and he's joined me as a biz dev lead. But he's been working with me for over a year or so, working with my early customers, bringing on some design partners. He's been an advocate of this for a very long time.
That's awesome. It's good to have someone joining the team that already has that buy-in and that kind of faith in the product and can kind of speak to that as well. And in the 2 months that he's kind of been at kind of more full capacity, have you noticed any big changes? Have you noticed kind of an ease with scaling the business side of things? Have you been able to focus more on the tech development and the AI piece? Has that led to,
Oh,
additional
yeah.
growth that's been unexpected or what have the past 2 months kind of looked like now
Oh,
with
yeah.
having access to him?
Having, somebody to support you on the sales side is huge. Just moving away from just a founder-led sales team and bringing somebody on the sales team, you know, someone else advocating for your product, somebody to bounce ideas off of, it's constantly on Slack or email. It's huge. It's having somebody with you working alongside you, and especially on the sales and the customer side, helps you validate so many things or brainstorm things that you weren't able to do that before. Both mentally, definitely makes a difference on the business side and accelerates the sales and the partnerships so much faster. But even it's a good mental support for me as a founder.
It's nice when not everything falls on you.
Yeah.
Founders always start off wearing every single hat that exists. And then it's the journey of halfway through being like, okay, well, now I'm the subject matter expert at my business. I'm the touch point on everything. And that's just simply not sustainable. So,
Yeah.
but I also know that offloading portion can be a lot of work and can be quite challenging. It's interesting to hear how that journey works for people when they onboard those strategic positions out of necessity. With leveraging him and his expertise, having some of those big sales and marketing pieces off your plate, is there a growth goal coming down the pipe in the near future that you guys are looking to hit? What does that look like? And is there a new plan of attack with regards to getting there now that you have this additional resource on your team?
Yeah, so we do have a milestone that we want to hit at the end of 6 months in terms of we have a number in our head. Certainly what we are building is applicable to every startup and scale up. So the market is pretty big. We just have to be focused on how we attack the market. So it's also, for my part, I think we have to sort of educate the market on why you can get a go-to-market strategy straight out of the box, and why is it better than what you do in ChatGPT or in your LLM, right? A lot of the LLMs, you ask them for a strategy, they do give you the strategy, but what we do is we give it to you on the basis of a very strong inputs, and you can actually look at all those inputs and validate those inputs. And if you change any of those inputs, your output strategy will look different. So it's something people in the AI world talk about explainer AI. This is kind of like the explainer AI for go-to-market strategy, right? A lot of the times what you get out of ChatGPT is just black box, right? You don't know why it thought about this. Even if you do deep search, right? It'll tell you, I'm thinking about this and I'm evaluating this, but is it really evaluating the right context of your business? Is it really taking in the customer input? Is it really taking in the competitor context? And so we've built it step by step, so every piece can be evaluated, and with that you can still get your strategy, a 25-page document, or multiple facets of your strategy in 15 to 20 minutes. But this is something I will have to work on educating the market as well, and that's something um, is a approach I need to put in place to get to that milestone.
Mm-hmm.
Because the
Definitely.
perception is that ChatGPT or your Claude can give you whatever, but what it gives you is something that you really can't hang your hat on, especially when it comes to something as important as a go-to-market strategy. Certainly, people can program it and they can do this, put in the same effort we put in, but I think what we have is something very special and very contextual in terms of producing the output that we produce, and we can really point to why this output was created for your business.
Definitely. And I think you touched on something very important, which is the general perception of AI is a bit of a fallacy, where general open LLMs can theoretically accomplish these tasks and run these problems and simulations and create these solutions. It's on the user to leverage it correctly to get to that point. And I think that's a piece, exactly what you said, where that education is lacking. I know that points to a broader issue of folks not really understanding how to best leverage and best utilize AI to get what they need out of it. And to do that, you ultimately do have to be the subject matter expert of whatever you're trying to get it to do, so that you can, like you said, put in the exact right inputs. So I think that education piece is becoming more important as people get more disillusioned about how AI really works and how to actually get it to do what you need it to do. And that education piece, is that something that you see being infused in outbound marketing campaigns and cold outreach? Have you guys conceptualized what that authority building is going to look like moving forward?
Yeah, we started off with a white paper on our page, which talks about what Agile GTM is and how we think of it. So that's a starting point, but we will be putting out more content around this, around Agile GTM and how we think, the building blocks of go-to-market can be thought through. It's not hard. It's what a lot of consultants and also talk about their frameworks. But I think what is neat about our solution is how it contextualizes everything and it creates the feedback loop back. We can contextualize everything with a framework, use public-based information, but we can also create feedback loops so you can keep iterating on your strategy.
Definitely. I want to ask you one last question for your future vision. I know we've talked about some of the goals and you have certain metrics and numbers in mind, but with regards to the plan to get there, is there anything that you are anticipating needing to be done or needing to implement that hasn't happened yet to hit those goals? Is there any new plan of attack or new additions to your growth strategy that you'd be looking to implement in the near future?
Yeah, certainly everything along the lines of beefing up our content, getting more sophisticated with outreach. We are doing a couple of events in September that will broadcast our message more. Yeah, but everything that you'd expect from an outreach standpoint and beefing up the content, and certainly and the product development piece will continue. So adding more capabilities to the product and so that we can expand that spiral of customers that I talked about. But I see a lot more original content coming from us in terms of around the topic of Agile GTM and how we think about operationalizing GTM all the way from strategy to execution. And certainly we will be thinking through creating a better infrastructure for our sales and marketing.
Awesome. And is there anything coming down the pipe that folks should look out for? Anything you want to plug? Any new projects or initiatives being rolled out? Anything like that?
So the pricing that you see on our page right now is for enterprise pricing. We are going to be creating a new pricing model on a per user basis, which is going to make this accessible to all go-to-market consultants and any user who wants to basically work on a go-to-market strategy and align their sales and marketing teams and enable the sales with the right messaging and right tools, making it very, very compelling. So look out for that, because I think it's going to be very straightforward to get on board, do your free trial, and then upgrade for like a very small per user license per month. So I think that's exciting for me, because I'm just expanding the market all the way from startups, scale ups, and go to market consultants. Everybody who needs this go to market strategy tool and the messaging tool.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Monica, for joining us today. I appreciate having the opportunity to chat with you about all things SureRev.AI, about your experience, what you've learned. And I know a lot of other founders in a similar place, or folks looking to leverage tech in their companies. I'm sure they learned a lot from you. So thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to check out SureRev.AI. You can find them on their website, LinkedIn. You can find Monica on LinkedIn. And yeah, thank you so much, Monica, for joining us.
Thank you. I really appreciate this. It was great.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, guys. This has been this episode of the CTRL ALT GAB podcast. Please follow along and check out our other episodes. And thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the CTRL ALT GAB podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.